TeamSnap ONE live stream stage. I'm Kyle Pagan, head of social here at Buying Sandlot. We've got a great crop of interviews with some industry leaders today. If you missed day one, people will come down, tell their company what they do. We'll talk for about 10 minutes. They'll be in and out, and we'll cut it up, and we'll have a good time. But before we get into our first interview, I have to thank the people at TeamSnap ONE for powering the stream. From registration to live streaming, TeamSnap ONE has every tool you need to run and grow your organization in one powerful platform. Visit teamsnap.com/one for more. That link is also in the description of the live stream below. Let's bring on our first guest. Thank you for coming on.
Sure.
Feel free to take this and just clip it to a lapel.
There we
Fantastic. All right. So to start, we just go name, company, what you guys do.
So I'm Dave Navarre. I'm a high school pitching coach. I have a new startup called Diamond Metrics.
Yes.
I spent 35 years in application development, and the past 8 years I've also been coaching baseball. And I never understood how these two worlds existed so close to each other in me, and they never intersected. And so I have all these pitchers on my staff that I want to know what they do best, and I want to make them better. And, I'm tracking things during a game. I've got my clipboard with, the velocity and the location and everything. And then I have it in training sessions, and I've got all this data, and it's all in different silos. It's like they'll use Pitch Logic or Repsodo. They'll play for me. They'll play on 2-3 different travel teams over the course of the year, not jumping, just their different seasons, and all that data sits in different places. And as a high school pitching coach, I want to see all at one place. And I want to see like a chart with all of my guys so I can compare them against each other and know what the secondaries for those pitchers
You need the storytelling.
Yeah,
you need to tell a story.
And I want to look at the longitudinal data over time. How did they change? I wrote on my blog this past week about a kid I've been coaching since 2023 when he was in the 5th grade. It was a rec ball team, and I've coached him in the middle school team. I've coached him on some travel teams, and now he's on the high school team as an 8th grader. And I can look at his progress of 20 miles an hour in the last 3 years. And, project that to when he's a senior, he'll be throwing in the mid-80s if he keeps at it. And look at that kind of thing and make it make sense.
So where are you at right now? So you started this. You have the startup now, Diamond Metrics.
Yes.
And you are now building the data collection.
Yeah, so right now it's in pilot. I have Brevard College, which is a local Division III school. Gotcha. They use Repsodo, and so I've got their Repsodo data in there. I have my high school team using Pitch Logic and Repsodo. Some college pitchers at random with TrackMan and various guys around the country. Individuals, like guys who are freshmen and haven't yet made their high school team, or the junior who got cut this year and wants to be on the team next year. And so we want to work on their progress and understand it, and also then to be able to create that narrative to go to whoever's going to coach them, go, here's what we did over the past few years, here's the progress, and be able to see what they've worked on.
So you being in it, and we've talked about this a lot, where like the best products are made for somebody who was in it and was like realized they were like, something's wrong, I can fix it. What were some of the gaps that you identified that you were like, all right, I need to start Diamond Metrics?
It was a big thing about the silos. That I could have a player. I have a player who's at IMG that I coach when he's in Asheville. And I don't have access to his IMG data, but I've got access to, I can go on Game Changer and get the results for that team or the team elite that he's on, or the other national team he's on.
But I'm guessing if he's playing on Game Changer and he's playing in a perfect game tournament, then he's also coming back to you. None of that's talking because there's no interoperability.
You got to log into 10 different websites, and you only see that one set of data at a time. And I want to look at it all in one place. because then it's going to help me to help him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to tell the story not only for how can it help you guys in the high school space or the youth space or, winning games, winning conference championships. Like, I'm sure then there are college recruiters coming and being like, hey, how do we talk to this guy if we can't, get the data from Game Changer? You can only get the data from Perfect Game. So where do you what's your thoughts on interoperability? It's a big buzzword that we talked about in the industry a lot. It's been spoken a lot about at Buying Sandlot today. Where's your kind of thought process on the whole interoperability?
Yeah, well, I think it starts out with the player should own his own data.
Gotcha.
The conference, there's a session on that, on data ownership, and I absolutely think because the player generates the data, it shouldn't belong to the facility or to the operator. It should belong to the player.
It's like a data passport, kind of.
Exactly.
The passport just follows.
And like Santiago was saying yesterday in the session, he was talking about that they have a transcript, educational transcript. They have a game performance transcript. We need a training transcript, and we need that all to relate together, so that then there's a story that can be told and understood along the way.
Yeah, another complicated layer we have to add to it, the verifiable data.
Yeah,
I was on a panel with the data and wearables crew yesterday. Mike Rowley and Ryan Kaplan were talking about it because they're more in the baseball space. If a guy's hitting a 107 exit velo, that could just be a flash in the pan. That could be a TrackMan error or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And if he's hitting 107 and he puts it on his profile saying that his max velo is 107, someone travels across the country, goes to see him. He's kind of more around the 87, 90 area than a college coach, unfortunately, just wasted their time. So how do you think about verifiable data?
The PitchLogic and Repsodo and TrackMan all have APIs that I just have to work with them to get access to, so that that'll be verifiable data. Right now, I'm relying on downloading CSV files and uploading. I'm 6 months in. I've done 2 pilots. I have some people scattered around. That's manageable. But as it goes to scale, and as I involve, if the Curve program gets its 30 programs in 30 months.
It's super close,
I'm not going to upload all those CSVs myself. I want that data to flow in from the API, and they want to be able to see, not just on the PitchLogic app or the Repsodo app immediately. They want to see it in with that historical data over time in minutes, not in days. And so that there's that instant feedback, and then it can help them with performance going forward. Yeah. It's an amazing time to be in baseball with the explosion of technology, where we saw at ABCA, I saw one guy had a piece of software where it would take video of a pitcher and use AI to come up with recommendations for that. Well, now there's 5 products like that, and then the guy at Grady Pitching School in Ohio, great pitching coach, they have an app too. Yeah. And so it's ubiquitous. It's going to be everywhere.
It's also funny, and it adds a little caveat to the whole thing. It's AI proof data. Data collection is AI proof. It's actually kind of the biggest moat that I think a lot of these data companies that have are probably best positioned for the future, because AI can't really affect data collection. Maybe down the line it can, who knows. But that being said, what's kind of like your perfect, what would be kind of like your holy grail? Is it just these companies start talking to each other, so it just makes it easier? Does it open up? Like, what kind of, you see like 5-10 years down the line, if do you have a prediction? Or
I think there'll be some companies that are producing hardware and doing measurables, and there's, with all the stuff you can do on an iPhone now. Hey Blue is a piece of software that does the ABS system using an iPhone. I mean, it's in pilot, in beta right now, but it's going to be everywhere. Like, I'm the only guy in Western North Carolina who's doing data in youth baseball. But in 10 years, I expect every high school is going to have a TrackMan style system, because the price will come down and the availability will go up. And maybe it's that they've got 5 iPhones scattered around their stadium, but that kind of tracking is going to be available. And if you don't have it, you're going to be in a world of hurt.
So you think kind of the democratization of tracking and data as we kind of get years down the line is kind of what will
it's
open
not
up
just going to be the most expensive schools that have it.
Yeah.
It's going to be everywhere. There'll
Nice.
be, I was out there with a pocket radar on a little league field 8 years ago, and I invested a lot of my money in better technology, but the prices on it keep coming down, and the availability and the way that you can access it. Like I say, with the iPhone, there's things where you plug into your iPhone, but there's also just plain old using the iPhone, and it's going to be everywhere. I mean,
Game Changers making their bones off of just a family member just putting their iPhone up in their little in the little backstop, and now we're live streaming games and stuff, and now we're getting fixed installs with some other stuff and everything. So that tracking will get better. AI tracking for highlights will get better. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Like I use our school has a license for Huddle, and so I've got my iPad sitting up there behind the backstop recording the game, and then with Huddle Assist, it'll score it, and it's someone who's not emotionally attached to the results. If I've got a parent doing the scorebook and the other team has somebody doing Game Changer, they're both emotionally invested in, is that a hit or is that an error?
100%.
Someone who's looking at it on video at Huddle, doing Huddle Assist, they're not emotionally attached. They're looking at it and doing it the way a major league scorekeeper would do it. And that makes a big difference to me. Like we had a guy hit an inside the park home run that the other team called an error.
Yeah. The MLB can't even figure it out right now for scoring and everything. Is there anything you want to say? It's in beta right now, you said,
it's
right?
It's in beta. I'm looking for additional partners in facilities and more technologies to integrate. I know I can get data from ArmCare and ingest that, but I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
I know that there's, I want these APIs to exist. And so it's a big thing for me. So anyone who wants to go to diamondmetrics.net, you can see the marketing site, and then you can get access to demo data on diamondmetrics.app. I'll give you the password once you click on the button saying you want to get in and look at how it tracks data over time. I've got anonymized data on 4 different players at different levels, a 12-year-old, a middle schooler, a young high school player, and a college pitcher. And you can look at their data and even game data, but anonymized who the opponent was. So it's random names, so you can't figure out who it was. And see how that data looks.
Nice.
And it's just been fascinating for me. I spent such a long time trying to figure out how they all work, how my technology background and my love of baseball were going to work together. And with this, I've been able to integrate the two. It's been awesome.
Good. That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Really
Thanks
appreciate
for everything.
the conference.
I'll take that mic for you.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Fantastic. Diamond Metrics. Go look it up. Good. All right, we're back. Name, company, what it does.
Jonathan Carone, Healthy Sports Parents, the creator of that. We help parents raise great humans through sports. And if we get a good athlete in the process, that's a win. But I recognize that our kids are going to play their last game somewhere between 12 and 18, and we still have 40 years to be their parent. So how we build that relationship right now will impact the next 4 years of our lives with them.
I'm sure some people have seen you on social media, your podcast,
hopefully.
Healthy Sports Parents. You guys have a very, very, very nice following and everything. Also, moderated a panel.
I did, yeah.
How'd that
fun.
go?
It was better than I expected. Like,
Good.
we had people like coming here. I didn't know, like, obviously, you know, the business side of your sports. So there's a lot of talk about AI. There's a lot of talk about VC and private equity. I didn't know how much of a taste there would be for the rec, because my panel was on like the professionalized recreation and recreation options. We were busting out the door and out the back of the room. So it was one of the larger like interest groups of the day. It wasn't anything about me. It was just the interest in rec. And to hear about the opportunities that people are creating or thinking about creating, whether it's from brand new ideas, whether it's franchises like I-9, whether it's current clubs trying to build up teenage recreation, like I knew there was a need for recreation options. To see that many people in a room who are working actively to build recreation and rec plus options for kids so that families don't have to travel everywhere.
Yeah.
Like the sad part is a lot of our kids are probably a little too old to experience that.
But the next generation.
But the next generation.
Yeah.
And so like we're seeing the pendulum switch back around. And I think the future of youth sports is that rec plus option.
100%. We're really bullish on rec, and I think going back to your little your parent thing about like the next generation. I think our generation understood that specialization might have not been the greatest thing in the world. So now we raise our kids a little bit differently, being like, hey, you know, you should play basketball in the wintertime. You should play soccer in the spring, football in the fall. Like you should be playing multiple sports.
Yeah, and there's a space for competition within that. So it's not just like willy-nilly we go and nothing ever matters. Like I gave the example in the panel, a friend of mine, Scott Wollaston, he's the CEO of North Carolina Fusion. They have a program. So they are one of those clubs that a bunch of clubs came together. So it's like 2 or 3 cities all under the same roof. But what they offer is what they call Advanced Rec League. So you sign up for your 10-week season, 1 night a week practice, 1 game a week for your rec team. But then if you want more, they do Advanced Rec, which is a Friday night and 3 Sunday doubleheaders. So you get 6 extra games, 8 or 9 extra practices, and it's $130 extra.
Yeah.
So it's you keep it in that one sport window. You pay $260 instead of $130, and you get 6 extra games against kids who want to take it a little bit more seriously, and everything is within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's if there's a good side of the consolidation, that's something I see that, like, because what Scott talks about is because they have so many kids in their system, they can travel between the 3 cities and just stay within those 3 cities instead of having to go out larger. When you get to the higher levels, obviously you go further,
and we're even seeing it like in the club space. I just talked to P2P, who's going to be under the Curve Sports brand. Now with the Curve Sports investment, sure, they're a club, they're more competitive and stuff, not really a rec-based area, but now they're able to build clubs in Minnesota, Wisconsin, the 2 Dakotas. So now kids don't have to get on a plane ride because, you know, when you think of Minnesota, you think of football and you think of hockey. Yeah, 100%.
So even like in North Carolina Fusion, they do rec, but then they do all the different levels. In North Carolina, we call it classic, and then they have the ECNL. So they have every level. But what Scott told me was his son plays on like the lowest level classic, whatever it was. So it's like the step up from rec. But within Fusion, they have 8 teams in his son's age group at that level. So they could theoretically all stay within their facilities and play that higher level because they have the critical mass of, so it's a more competitive version, but it's 45 minutes 45 minutes at most.
And a lot of times what we've seen is like, we talk to a lot of newer academies that are doing this AI learning or virtual learning. I talked to a guy from ICL yesterday who's doing a type of virtual homeschooling kind of hybrid. You know, as those are kind of upending the traditional scholastic school system, you know, kids might be going to school not 8 hours a day, like we did back in the day. They might be going for 3, 4, sometimes the IMG model, like the 4. Kids are gonna, if they're not, you know, elite athletes in one of these academies, they're gonna need places to go while mom and dad are at work.
Yeah.
You know, they need safe environments like that. So like Kyle's mentioned this, where it's like if you don't have an I-9, if you have an AI teaching curriculum in the major city and they don't have an I-9 or another franchise like a sport ball or something like that, you should consider investing in that, because that's just a lucrative environment when people need to send their kids.
And in my panel, we had like, I said in my panel, like, I can't be the guy advocating for families without talking about costs.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I believe a worker deserves their wages. So what we talked about in that panel is there is a way for an operator to provide a high quality experience, get paid fairly while not taking advantage of families. So there's a balance there that what I'm seeing, the best of these companies are the ones that are
TeamSnap does a really good job. They do a really good job with telling the sponsorship story. They just had that milestone where they gave $20 million back to organizations through sponsorships, and sponsorship does help with that. And I think if Pete was watching this right now, or Nicole from TeamSnap watching this, they would agree that it's like we should be talking more about that. You know, how, like, you know, everyone's got to run a business, but how can we also, you know, subsidize jerseys, subsidize registration fees, you know, maybe be able to pay for a couple kids' registrations and stuff.
One of my panels, when I asked the question, he said that they can't cut their costs because that's what it costs. Yeah. But they do work with local organizations and nonprofits for grants, so that, yes, the people who can pay it will pay it. And then if there's the grant money and someone else wants it, they even bake it into their system where they have their coaches give back 2 to 3 hours a month of free time to just offer a clinic or something like that. So a lot of people are open to doing that. Yeah. They just want to give back. Like a lot of people are looking to give back. They just don't know how. It's a partnership between, it has to be a partnership between government, nonprofit, and the private sector. Like no one will be able to solve this problem on their own. No. 100%. And so it's like, how can we get the people in the room to talk about it so that we can come up with some solution? And I'm like, I don't trust what the government's going to do. Like none of us do at this point, like regardless of party. But I'm still optimistic enough in the humanity of people that if we get the right people in the right room with the right objectives, we can do good. Will it be the most absolute good? Stair stepping. We got to get there. Yeah. But if we can get 10% better in the 2020s, and then another 10% better, and then another 10% better, then by the time our kids have kids, by the time we're grandparents, hopefully these things will have shifted enough to where it's not necessarily the issues we're talking about today. Yeah, 100%. No, I think it will. It shifts with every generation. Yeah, it's a pendulum. Kind of figures out the next. It's swung over here. Yeah. Now there was a time where it swung too far to the, like, it should be all free flowy and fun and competition's bad. No, competition's not bad. And then it went to competition's all that matters, and we should be trying to win the national championship at 8 years old. And we could find a nice fair balance. My college roommate's son last year played in the 5U T-ball All-Stars. Love that. In Georgia. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like, you're keeping score in T-ball? Like, okay. I mean, we can all talk about a kid from our little league where, like, that kid's going pro at 9 years old because he could switch hit or something like that. And then honestly, hit, and he didn't grow past what he was when he was 12 years old. 100%, 100%. So I do think it starts with that, you know, little parent education kind of thing, being like, hey, listen, I think it's some stat like 18%, 17% of parents think their kids are going pro. Yeah. So I think that starts with that little. It's not just think. The one you're referencing is said that I think it was either 17 or 27% believe their kid was meant to be a pro. Like, believe they could, not believe they could, believe they were meant to be a pro. And I'm like, you haven't been around pro sports if you think your kid is meant to be a pro. Like, 27% of kids. I mean, the expansion numbers for these leagues would be insane. But no, that's definitely going to be something, you know, down the line, and we see it a lot. Cory Booker just talked about, you know, youth sports and everything. I think there's a congressman out in Pittsburgh who was talking about it. It's been on the Hill in the last couple of months. There's someone here in Pennsylvania, I forget his name, but he's proposing a $3,000 tax credit. Senator Picozzi out in the Northeast. Yeah, he's proposing $3,000 tax credit that goes towards whatever you, up to $3,000 what you spend in youth sports. Yep, you'll get off your tax at the end of the year. And I'm like, you should. Yeah, I would love to hear pushback to it just so I can be informed. But on the surface, I'm like, I don't see why we can't do that.
And also, I mean, 63 by 30, like that's the goal. So I mean, to wrap this, put a bow on this conversation, it's just like, this rec stuff is going to be very important for that. Keeping kids playing like that. That I know that 13, that 70% 13 number.
It's a little washy.
It's a little wishy-washy and stuff. But
even the most optimistic numbers, 50% are gone by high school. So we know that 50% are gone by about 14.
Yeah.
So that's on the most optimistic end. So like, what can we do to I think the thing to unlock the whole thing is recreation or intramural options for teenagers tied to the school.
Gotcha.
Before our generation, so up through the 80s and early 90s, intramurals were a part of high school sports.
Really?
And so you would have a basketball league, a slow pitch softball league, flag football, whatever it is, attached to the school where you would play either during lunch or immediately after school.
Gotcha.
So you're playing against your friends at school, so it's competitive.
Yeah.
You don't have parents involved. You're not traveling. It's just the funding for that was cut from the public school system. And so, but now that we are consolidating so many schools and we've got the 2,000, 3,000 member high school is becoming more and more normal. So you have the critical mass.
Yeah, you can only take 12 kids to play the basketball varsity team.
So like, if we can fund it so that the teachers can get paid, the ones who stay after and facilitate these leagues, if we can fund that and we can create a culture where we tell kids, hey, it's not uncool to play intramural sports. If it's a cool, it's not, bro, why are you trying so hard? Like, you're not on the varsity team. Why are you trying? No, it's like, hey, let's go out there and have a good time. Maybe you're a baseball player, but you can play intramural basketball, and it's one day a week, and you just go out there and play with your buddies.
I mean, it's been working for people that don't play competitively after college for years. I played
looking at intramural sports in college.
Played beer league.
Yeah. The fact that we go from high school students not playing anything recreationally to intramurals popping off like crazy in college tells me there's a desire for teenagers to play sports with their friends.
Yeah.
We just have to create the environment to where it's accessible and it's not looked down upon.
Yeah.
Because going back to the intramural idea, it's estimated that 60% of high school students played some type of intramural sport during the year when it was offered. So 60, whatever the number is, Project Play, it's been proven that's one of the ways we get people there. It's just, we got to figure out the funding.
Awesome. Tell people where they can find you.
HealthySportsParents.com, at Healthy Sports Parents, whatever platform you are on social media. And then the Healthy Sports Parents podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, wherever you listen. We put out stuff every single Wednesday.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you. I'll take that mic from me. All right, we're back. Name, company, what do you guys do?
Sure. Chris Galakos, I'm managing partner of Values Partners based in Washington, D.C. We invest in late venture, growth equity, and lower middle market companies with a focus on youth and youth sports. We recently launched a holding company called Primetime Acquisitions, and we're proud to announce that we today invested in Base Sports.
Hey,
Investment number 3.
congratulations.
In the platform, thank you. We have a view that youth sports is institutionalizing, and the sponsorship opportunity is a great way to bring new partners into the ecosystem. Right, as we've heard today on some panels, the pressure on families and parents and the price of admission is getting a lot higher. So why not bring in folks who can subsidize and create new revenue streams to offset some of those stresses and pressures that parents are thinking? Well, what Mark and Carrie have built so far is probably the most scaled, nationally leveraged platform in the sponsorship space. And we think that that allows to not just access local partners, but regional and national, and we can bring in big partners faster.
Interesting.
We do have synergy with other assets in the portfolio. So we have a business called Newbridge that does experiential on-site activations. So we can see synergy there.
Yeah.
And then we own a hardware business called Booster that does scoreboard signage and display. So synergy is obviously natural, and we think with Mark and Carrie at the helm, it'll do all.
Got the entire circle.
Yes, sir.
The entire product life cycle. I love it. Well, congratulations on that. Talk more about the partnership. Like, what really got you guys thinking, like, all right, Base Sports Group is something that we want to.
Sure. I'd say team and mission is probably the most important thing we look at when we're investing. And where we are in the youth sports institutionalization is probably phase 2 in our minds. So the first folks that came in were the consolidators, more the opportunists. And in instances like that, you kind of people have a hard way of accepting private equity in these smaller businesses. So what we think Mark and Base can do now is take the foundation that was built and do it in a more mission and values focused approach.
Talk about that though, because like you're right, like people do like TeamSnap, private equity based company, but also just announced $20 million milestone given back to organizations through sponsorship and stuff. So like we joke about it, it's like this space of supervillain private equity that everyone's scared about, but like there are great other stories about that. So you know, if you want to expand on, you know, why people shouldn't be, you know, what you guys can offer and how you can, you know, help parents and affordability and all this stuff.
I think it's really having that mission alignment and recognizing who the end customer is. It's families, it's the students, it's the parents, and it's creating a sense of community where it's sponsors, where it's advertisers, where it's brand partners who could come in and engage those communities in a positive way, as opposed to being more extractive, which is typically what you see in private equity. You have seen some blowback. There's been a couple articles in the major press about it. We think we are now at that point where it's not just about making money in this ecosystem, it's about giving back. It's about supporting local communities and families. And Base has a great mission and a great capability to do that.
Yeah, they've done great stuff. I mean, they're pretty local to us, so I'm pretty familiar with them and everything. But they had a great partnership with IKEA, where they completely revamped a facility with IKEA furniture and everything. They're very good at what they do. You talked about phase 1 and phase 2. Any idea down the line what phase 3 looks like? What if you had a prediction?
I would think as any industry evolves, you see increased consolidation, but this will be less about just driving excess return, taking price up, letting the customer value prop erode, but doing it in such a way that you're always giving value back. Software is certainly interesting. That's something we're looking at in prime time. We have hardware, we have advertising, we have on-site activation. We think that's the next leg in our investment, and we're actively and openly looking for partners. So, you know of anyone, if there's anyone in that.
I mean, there's a lot of software here. I'll tell you that. There's a couple of panels I can already think about and everything. What kind of gets you guys, you know, what kind of gets your ears perked up when you think about the software side of
who's an AI winner? Right. I think it's a unique data set, its ability to have distribution and take a fragmented end market and harness the power of software to make it more efficient.
What are you looking for in the AI space? Is like the AI winner, like what, like someone who, I mean, a lot of things we talk about is like the data sets kind of stuff, where like data is kind of AI proof because it sucks to collect it on the collection model. So I know that's like a big one there. Have you guys like thought about the data space, or is you're saying like
we're looking at 2 businesses now? Too early to tell, but if something happens, you know, we'll give you the scoop.
I appreciate it.
And until then, we're looking for ideas. So anything you got, send my way.
I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll take that mic for you.
You got it.
All right, we're back. Name, company, what do you guys do?
All right, I'm Joe DiMatteo. I work for SSEC, Sports Sponsorship Events Consulting. We're a sponsorship agency focused on grassroots sports mostly. And yeah.
Sponsorship, huge right now in the space.
Definitely.
Because there's so much opportunity there.
Definitely.
It also gives back to the organizations. TeamSnap is a big one. They just hit a $20 million milestone to give back to the organizations and stuff to help subsidize fees, registration fees, pay for jerseys, pay for some kids' registration fees and everything. What do you guys see in the sponsorship space right now in youth sports? Any trends that you can talk about?
I think that with a lot of the brands and companies that are advertising and partnering with the pro teams, we're seeing them really start to realize that there is a path for youth sports. Yeah. And it's just, kind of, especially I work a lot in the youth soccer space, so especially in the soccer world right now with the World Cup coming to the U.S., it's like, yes, your brand partners and is a partner of the pro team or pro athlete. How do you kind of get a full picture of your partnership and start it from you start from the grassroots all the way up to the pro teams, and how do you get that full picture of sponsorship in your soccer strategy?
Yeah, and soccer is actually a really good one because unlike club baseball or club basketball or AAU basketball, really, like you'll have like Tyler Hero will sponsor an AAU team, but it's not the Miami Heat's AAU team. With soccer, the Union have an academy, and it rolls all the way up to the pro side and everything. So is that kind of like how you guys are like selling people on your sponsorships and being like, hey, you got not only the top team, you got also the bottom, you got the roll up.
Right. That's kind of how we position it because, you got to start your advertising with a love for the game starts at the grassroots. Like my background is hockey. I was a hockey player. So, I've always seen the brands and companies when I was younger playing. It wasn't as prominent as in now or as in soccer. It's more prominent in soccer, but, you really stick with the brands that, you saw when you were playing youth. And that's kind of how we position it from the bottom to the top.
Yeah. How do you tell the story to like customers and stuff being like, hey, listen, I know you're going to get, millions and millions of eyeballs if you're sponsoring the 76ers. Yeah. But there's a local club right here that might have, 10,000 kids that are playing. If they got 10,000 kids that are playing, most likely they got 20,000 parents. So you're looking at around 30,000 eyeballs. Is that kind of how you guys position the story?
I do think that the pro partnerships are great and they're good. But, I think sometimes with the youth sports sponsorships and partnerships, you can connect more directly with the families because, if you show up to a tournament, you're there. Whereas, if you go to a big league game, you might just see their sign and And that's great, and I think it's a good strategy too. But I think you can add on to it with the youth sports sponsorship, and it doesn't come at the pro sports price tag per se.
That always worked when we were younger and stuff. You get the local pizza joint, out sponsor. So maybe you don't hit McDonald's up. Maybe you go to a local pizza joint after the game and stuff. And now that's a return on investment. A lot of things we see with people we've talked about. They'll do like a little WhatsApp group and stuff, and they'll have. Fans of their team be like, hey, just to let you know, local pizza joint 20% off this week. If you want to go,
exactly.
Help them. It helps us. They sponsor the club, help with registration fees and lead costs and all that stuff. Yeah. Anything you want to talk about from the company, what you guys are seeing in the space? Anything exciting coming down the line? What you're getting from this conference and everything?
Yeah, no, the conference is great. Talking to a lot of good people. I think like we said about the sponsorships. Kind of getting bigger in the youth sports space. I think that the bigger companies are really starting to see the value.
Yeah, bigger companies are starting to see the value. Now you got companies like TeamSnap ONE who are doing the highlights and everything, so they're attaching brands onto there. They're doing the live streams and everything. They're attaching brands onto there. It's an exciting time to be in the sponsorship space in youth sports.
When we're talking with these different brands and these companies, we're really trying to piece together what partnership structure works for you, because what might work for one company is not going to work at all for another.
Do you see a lot of people wanting to marry the physical with the digital?
Yes. I think that's a big part because, let's just say you have a snack brand or hydration brand. So, you come on site to a tournament or an event, and now you have an opportunity to sample. And now when you connect with these families and these players digitally, it's not like a random product that they don't know what it is because they've already seen it at the event. So when you kind of marry those two together, I think that's when you can when people really get the brand recognition and know what the brand is.
Yeah, and then activation side, obviously, if you got like a sports drink, like you're
Yeah.
saying, you want somebody on
Yeah.
the in the physical, giving it out and everything, so it's in people's hands. One more for you, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Obviously, you guys focus a lot on clubs, teams, and stuff in the youth space. What's the single player? I'm not saying like you're not sponsored some 6U kid from Wisconsin, but
Yeah.
like, what's kind of since you guys do kind of roll up from youth to the pro, like, do you guys ever experiment with maybe we're in Philadelphia, so let's just say Tyrese Maxey going to a youth sporting event attached to a brand. Is that any experiment there? I might be overshooting it or something.
Yeah, we haven't really explored that yet, but I think it's an interesting path to tie pro player into the youth events and stuff like that. But definitely something that we would want to
soccer
explore
would be a better option. I should have said soccer.
Yeah, but it's definitely something we would want to look at and are looking at. So
where can people find your company, social, website, anything that if they want to reach out if they're a club?
We're SSEC, Sports Sponsorship Events Consulting. So we have a website, check us out, and it'd be great to connect with anybody who wants to have a conversation.
Fantastic. I appreciate you coming on.
All right, yeah, good to hear.
For you.
Yep.
Everything. Welcome back. All right. Our next guest, name, company. What do you guys do?
John Dorsey, CEO of EventConnect. We try to solve the problem of like the youth sports travel world. So we do registration, into housing, into scheduling, into mobile apps, and just try to really support our tournament directors on like all the tech that they need and the service they need that goes along with the housing, because housing is details.
Yes.
Details.
Yes. And a current Buying Sandlot sponsor, so we appreciate that.
Correct.
Well.
Everybody's got to wear a brand today. Which is
I love it. You'll see it all over the shows that we do weekly too, and everything, and on the newsletter.
Yeah.
So tournament logistics, I gotta imagine there's a million things.
Yeah.
How do you guys, how do you guys make it easier on the tournament directors?
Well, interestingly enough, so we started 13 years ago, and our first client was like, look, when you do registration, you do the roster, then you get your hotel rooms, and you pay for your registration course. The second guy that shows up, he goes, no, you do your registration, you do your housing, then you do your roster. And so we learned really early on that it's all details, and everybody's actually quite unique. And so in tech, you want everybody to be sort of this linear fashion because it's a lot easier to build that. What we found out is the reason that there's so much complexity in the market and there's so many different types of tournament directors because they all run it differently. And so we had to engineer a product to go and allow the flexibility of being able to do it your way. And I think with the AI game now, we're going to be able to give basically mass customization to our clients.
Can you talk about more about how you guys are utilizing AI and technology and stuff?
We use it in every single way you could probably imagine, and then some other ways you haven't imagined yet if you're not into the tech game, right?
Yeah.
It's really changed a lot this year. Like the AI, like assisted coding, has come a long way. Maybe even half a year ago, it was like a really good autocomplete, but now it's starting to become a lot faster and more efficient. So. We think that the technology is just going to boom, and in the youth sports world, it's how do you deploy at this scale? Like, how do you really create customization per client? Yeah, and that's something we're really trying to attack.
Yeah, any use cases you can talk about some customization examples?
It comes down to like how people want to schedule, what kind of automation they want in scheduling. A lot of people don't like automation in this world.
You'd be shocked by how many people still do spreadsheets.
Oh, well, I love spreadsheets. Spreadsheets are my favorite thing.
I've never been a spreadsheet guy. I'm in the creative side, not a numbers guy.
And so really it's like, how do they want to register? How do they want to represent their brand? How do they want their brand in a mobile app? We've, over the years, we used to have, different types of apps. We found out is all of the partners really want their own app, with their own branding and their own traffic and their own. So there's a lot of fun to it. It's just a lot of complexity.
Is there a sponsorship piece to it?
We have not gone down that. Okay. Where it's a hard problem to solve for us. Yeah. Where tournament director A is working with Adidas, tournament director B is working with Nike. It's not our job to influence that conversation at all. Although we're here to support on those things. So it's one of those games that's not quite figured out on how to actually really activate at that layer, because everybody's got their own unique deals that they're working on.
Yeah, I gotta imagine. How many tournaments you guys doing a year, or how many?
I think in 26 where there's 4,000.
Nice.
So we really focus on like the travel space.
Is there any certain sport that you guys are major in, or is it kind of?
No, we've got.
You travel, you got EventConnect.
As a Canadian, we started in hockey. Yep. And we got all the way up and down to track and field and figure skating, and all the team sports is really focused. And it's a lot of fun, and the scale just keeps going from what we can see. And so we're just keep trying to figure out how to drive down the cost a little bit.
What do you think the 2.0 looks like in the youth sports space in terms of like the tech? We have the tech 2.0 up there and stuff. You spoke on AI. Is there anything 5-10 years down the line?
I really think everybody's going to have their own tech. Honestly, God. I think every single partner, client, customer, director will have a version of something that they will be able to launch for themselves.
Interesting. Kind of like a vibe coding kind of thing?
There might be some vibe coding. There might be platforms that come out that you can build on top of. Like, think of like WordPress in our world. It's a really simple way to describe it, but you get a base install and you can add all the layers to it that you would like to.
You can add in tweets and YouTube videos and all that.
The Shopify guys have really kind of figured that out. Right? So I think we're going to go down that road, and the more capital and equity that shows up, I think will grow the industry a lot as far as sophistication, how they adopt technology, how they deal with their sponsorships. I think it's going to be a super exciting time.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about vibe coding on the show before, and we don't think someone's going to come replace one of the big management platforms and stuff, but we do think that on some aspects, you could just attach a layer onto something that someone vibe coded in a weekend.
100%.
Other big companies will be like, hey, we're going to put 2 guys on this. We're going to figure this out in a week, so we don't have to deploy that capital to purchase something and everything.
It all comes down to your technical know-how and how to use these tools. You could have zero coding experience and figures out something. I think you'll have massive security risks if you do that. And then you could be, more in the tech world and understand what's being built underneath, which I think you're going to have to go down that road at least for quite a while in order to capitalize on it and actually deploy it.
What's your whole thoughts on interoperability and apps talking to each other and everything?
It already happens.
It
kind
especially in your space, but
in our
sometimes
space, all the APIs are already kind of there. So I think it'll get more sophisticated. The technology, like the user layer, will probably keeps getting better and better and better.
And with parent demand and customer demand and everything, that they just all want they want everything to just talk to each other and not have 5 apps.
What I set up on a speech there was like communication is lacking in our industry. How you talk to 1,000 different people is hard today, right? So you're getting an email, goes to spam. You get a text, nobody reads it. So how are you going to interact with your clients in the future, I think, is going to be something kind of cool to figure out.
Nice. Anything else you want to talk about for Event Connect? Anything coming down the line? Anything exciting that we should know about?
I think there's you're going to see lots of stuff come up from us. You're going to see a lot of high energy come out of our company. Not that it doesn't already.
You do have a lot. You guys do have a couple high energy guys on that team that I've met so far.
And it's just a lot of fun. And we're working with the big brands in the hotels, and we're doing a lot of things that nobody's done yet. So
that's what we didn't talk about. The hotel space. You guys are really good at connecting travel teams to hotels. Anything you can expand on there?
Well, we think in the market today, the hotel booking is a little clunky for the hotels and for the families. And the tournament directors need to make sure everybody's kind of brought in together so the data represents itself properly. But there's still some clunkiness to figure out. And so the partnerships we have with Marriott and Hilton and the IHGs and the Wyndhams and the Choices of the world, we think that there's going to be better ways to do that. If you're a transient traveler right now, you have a million options. You're going through Google, you're going through Expedia, you're going through Booking.com, and on and on and on. And that experience is getting pretty frictionless. In the group side, it's not quite there yet to make it a true frictionless experience. And we're hoping to bring that to the market pretty deep.
So kind of like here's a room block for 12U Club A from Wisconsin coming down to Florida.
And we do that today. I think the hotels are going to be able to pitch back to the business, and it's going to get a lot more like buy side, sell side, buy side, sell side. I think there's huge opportunity for this because everybody's going and staying somewhere. We just got to make it easier.
And now these facilities that are coming up now they're just attaching a Marriott, they're attaching a Wyndham onto it and everything. So the tourism dollars are not decreasing anytime.
I don't think you see it slow down here.
No,
I think you'll see the experience raise, the happiness raise. And we're happy to be part of it.
And the thing is, in the tourism industry, you might just get a little smarter. We talked to a guy from Pitch to Pitch who Curve Sports just invested in, and he's just instead of maybe getting on a plane and going 10 hours because they're from Minnesota, because the baseball might not be as competitive up there. They'll start launching into the Dakotas and Wisconsin with their new capital and everything. So that'll build. They're building 150,000 square foot facility and stuff. We talk about the guys from Mode out in Spokane who are building 150,000 square facility on top of their 150,000 square facility and stuff.
I mean, their investment is wild. And I think as people go around, the experience of the sport, the experience of the game, the experience in the new city that you're going to. I know as a baseball coach, the kids were just excited to go to the city as they were to play the games. And I think we forget that sometimes, like in our business, that they're they're playing 4, 5, 6 games, but the kids are having a blast hanging out, doing the things that they like to do. And I really do think this is a two-sided game here.
And then when you have the experiential, and the kids love it, the parents typically love it too. So hey, all right. let's go back. Let's go back to ESPN Wide World of Sports and all these tournaments and everything.
I have friends that are, their kids are aging out of youth sports right now, and they're sad.
Yeah.
Because their family was their hockey team.
Yeah.
And they would go to 4 or 5 events a year together. They have a beer in the hallway together.
I'm still boys with my T-ball,
yeah,
my T-ball guys, my 9U basketball guys and stuff. So
I mean, that's what makes this industry the best, though. It is, everybody is there for kids, and it's fun.
Yep.
It is fun as hell to work on it.
Yep.
Lots to do, though. Lots to build.
Lots to build. And that's kind of the other exciting layer of it and stuff. Lots to build, lots to make it easier, lots to make it more frictionless.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, where can people find you? What's your website?
EventConnectSports.com.
Bang.
Nice and
All
easy.
right. Appreciate you.
Thanks
so much.
Thanks,
buddy. Take that for you.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. Name, company, what do you guys do?
Daniel Himmel from Texas, Middle School Matchup Sports, and we create these baseball events that kind of replicate a Sandlot experience for one weekend. We pull players from select teams, rec teams, all together for one weekend under your school. You play with your buddies that you grew up with, and just turns into this magical Sandlot experience.
Happy baseball.
Happy baseball.
Yeah, I will say we had you on the podcast. It was a great conversation. Hey, we came away with because we're from the Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York area, and people, all the middle schools we went to, they have teams and stuff.
Right.
But I know you have a South Jersey franchise and everything. But tell people how much middle school baseball isn't a thing in these other baseball deserts, you call it.
Yeah, it's 90% of the schools don't have middle school baseball, and the reason why is money thing, single-use sport, a single-use field, complicated infield, pitcher mound, dugouts. So it's just a money thing. And then at that age, most kids are jumping field sizes too. So it's just a weird thing to try to accommodate. So for some reason, there's just this drought of this ability to play with your friends from school.
Yeah. And then what was the gap you kind of identified when how do you really start middle school matchup?
Yeah, I was having a beer and I had a baseball player's son who was in the 7th grade. I really just wanted to see if our kids' team could beat the team across town, before high school. And I said it was on a Saturday night. said I'm going to wake up and build a website. This is a long time ago, 13 years ago, and I knew how to do Facebook ads, and I threw it up, and 8 weeks later we had like 200 people on the field, and then we doubled and crashed servers, and just 2 weeks ago our Houston owner opened up. There's so much anticipation for it that they had a team that sold out in 38 seconds.
Wow.
They sold 1,000 slots in less than 2 hours.
Wow.
So it's a highly anticipated, most popular tournament in Texas.
Yeah, and franchise opportunities. I know you have one out here. How many franchises so far in the?
We've sold 17 units. Not all of them, some are off to a rough start. Just any other franchisor will tell you the same thing.
Yeah.
But 17 units, we're moving fast. We have a lot of people in the pipeline, thanks to like podcasts and things like that. But very exciting. It's all moving fast.
And it's not just baseball. I've seen, and I follow along on social media. You guys had a flag football event a couple weeks ago. 7v7
football is super popular. It's emerging as a cool sport now, where the skilled players are just going out there and getting scouted at the high school level. But what's cool at the middle school level, or at this fun level, is you can just grab your buddies from school. Like you grab your squad and show up and run plays just like you would in the backyard. We do softball, 5-on-5 soccer in Houston. It's a new thing. And they just opened up to golf, which they were not anticipating, but they've had hundreds of people sign up. So many that they're
bowling in Ohio, is that
and
still
bowling
going
in
on?
Ohio.
Yeah.
A bunch of different things. We're kind of reining it in a little bit, but super exciting.
Nice. Any sports coming down the line that you guys are looking at, maybe to expand into?
Volleyball, sand volleyball seems to be a really good one. Anything that that kids can just want to, whether you play seriously or play for fun, come together just for one weekend, low commitment, and have a blast.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about your company is like the baseball and the middle school matchup that gets all the glories, but you're like an apparel company too.
So behind the scenes, we put every player that signs up for the school, whether only one person signs up for the school, we put them in a school jersey, school hats. So behind the scenes, we're actually a pretty large apparel company. That's the hardest part of our business, actually.
Yeah, and you were saying how many units or how many jerseys you guys are moving throughout the year?
Last year we did 57,000 pieces of apparel, and it's like 1,600 SKUs. That's what's so hard about it, is if you're from Lincoln Middle School and you're the only player that signs up, you're going to get a Lincoln Middle School jersey.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of a marketing thing for us, because that player wears it to school. And the other players that didn't hear about it, they're like, "What? We don't have a baseball team." He's like, "Yeah, we do. Next year, sign up." And that's how we kind of grow.
I like that. What are some challenges you guys are kind of trying to figure out right now as you're continuing to grow?
Different, because we're weather, because we're outdoors. So when we're getting franchisees further up north, they're trying to figure out how they can fit into events, and because the weather, everything's condensed, so fields are harder to find. And then just, our biggest challenge is every time we move into a new market, a parent sees this and said, "My kid already plays baseball." And we're like, yeah, we know. They don't play with their friends. And then they're like, "Our kid's too cool to play with." Like the competition level's too disparate, right? They can't play with this rec level kid, and it's never true. We thought that when we first started, but typically the elite players aren't as elite as they think they are, and the rec players aren't as they meet closer to the middle than you would think. There's some weird matchups, but
you also said people who typically win your middle school matchup tournaments in certain areas, like you can kind of correlate them to being like state champions.
Yeah, so it's all fun and it's a blast, it's like that, but it's also an early indicator of how good your high school baseball team is going to be. It's pretty cool. So when on the bracket day, it gets very competitive. To the end of the pointing of the bracket, it's very competitive. These are teams that are going to win state in 5 years, and we see this correlation. And what's really neat is we'll see like an oddball school show up. That means a parent has kind of said, "Man, we have good baseball kids here." They put them in this thing, and then sure enough, 5 years later, we'll see them winning state championships and things like that. We're also starting to get some kids in the pros now. Bobby Wood Jr. played in our first year.
Did he really?
We're starting to get those people kind of trickling out, so it's fun too.
That's awesome. Now, I really think it's a really cool space. I did like how you also mentioned that coaches will use it as a recruiting tool too, because they can kind of skirt the rules with middle school matchup in terms of like who they can coach and who they can't. Correct? Am I correct on that?
Yeah. So it starts with select coaches. So they'll go. We have all these kids that are playing that were a mix of kids they haven't seen. So the select coaches love to coach teams there because they like to look across the field and be like, that's a big boy who doesn't know that he's as good as he is. And they will try, it's a business sport, so they'll try to recruit him to get a new player on the roster. And then we're starting to, most of our coaches are parents, which we love. And, but what's happening is the high school coaches are now starting to see like, oh, that's my future high school team, or at least part of them. And there's no UIL rules or state rules that they can't talk to them. As soon as they get to the summer, they can't talk to them that summer or start practicing like that. But before that, so they're coming down and coaching the teams, or they're sending their varsity players down to coach the teams. And those kids think the varsity players are like gods at that point. So it's another accidental fun aspect of happy baseball. So the varsity players have never had a chance to really coach. So they're running ridiculous. Every other play is a suicide squeak. Every time there's somebody on third base, they try to steal them home because they've never had a chance to like coach. Yeah. There's no bunting ever. And
no situational baseball.
Yeah, it's just wheels off, which makes it fun for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. And last one for me. I know you mentioned club teams, AAU teams. They'll cancel their weekends for a middle school matchup because they know how much the kids want to be a part of it. We're talking like elite club teams.
Yeah. And so it's become so much of a culture, especially in the bigger markets, Dallas and Houston, that the clubs will like shut down for that weekend because they know their kids want to do that. Now, some, because of ego and stuff like that, some select coaches are like, no way, we're not doing that. But parents will leave a team, or they're choosing teams that will allow kids to play a middle school matchup. So it's in the Dallas and Houston area. By the time you've gotten to high school, you've probably played in middle school matchup once.
No, I always think about it like Little Giants when I was growing up. Yeah, that movie where the Cowboys would play the Giants and stuff, and it was just two crosstown rivals just made up of Sandlot kids.
That's exactly what this is, and it's I don't know, happy accident. When we first made it, I didn't think it was going to turn into this. I didn't know what happy baseball was going to be, but that's what it turned out to be.
Amazing. Any goals for 2026? You guys want to see like how many franchises you want to get to, or maybe there's some goals you guys?
We're really trying to, with the franchisees we have, really try to get them to immerse themselves in the market, get some more traction, build up the brand nationally by showing up to conferences like this. Great job, by the way.
Thank you.
So we're really just trying to elevate the brand, find some strategic partners, this has been a great event for finding that.
Fantastic.
But, awesome. So really just elevate the brand.
Where can people find your website, social media?
Yeah, middleschoolmatchup.com and Middle School Matchup on the interwebs. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, man.
That was
appreciate
awesome.
it. I'll take that for you. All right, we're back. Name, company, and what you guys do. I know you do a lot of stuff with MLS Next and youth sports soccer club that you also head of.
Yeah, so my name is Jeff Saunders. I sit on the board and serve as a sporting director of Metropolitan Oval Academy, which is an MLS Next academy. It's kind of my passion and my nighttime job, and during the day I work in investment and private equity into this youth sports and professional sports space.
What got you so interested in the conference? What you?
I think this is a great confluence of the leaders in this space, and of course, Buying Sandlot, trying to aggregate all the acumen and knowledge in this space to, in a form that really hasn't existed previously. So I think it's a great use for me and for I think everyone in the space, whether you're a facility operator, whether you're a club operator, whether you're an investor, whether you're a technology company. I think this is really a place where you've seen a lot of value, a lot of exchange of ideas.
Exciting area, soccer right now with the World Cup coming up and everything. How? What are your thoughts on like the U.S. pathway strategy? I know they just announced that probably almost 6 months ago, maybe.
Yeah, I think soccer in the United States is a really complex animal. It's very fragmented. There's a lot of different types of players at different tiers, at different levels, and so I don't think we've really kind of defined the pathways as well as we should. We have two primary players now in terms of pathways. MLS and MLS Next, which kind of took over from what the Development Academy was. I represent the non-MLS clubs in terms of that process when the Development Academy was shuttered by U.S. Soccer, and then the independent clubs decided to stick together to try to form a platform that made sense, and then brought MLS into that, and then MLS kind of ran with it and saw the value and is trying to structure and institutionalize the pathways through MLS.
Now, forgive me because I haven't dug in a lot on MLS Next. James, I wish was here because he could probably talk your ear off about it and stuff. So it was shuttered, and then you guys kind of brought back, and then you brought MLS back into the fold. Is that kind of how I?
Yeah, I think at the time when U.S. Soccer decided not to continue their funding and their involvement in the Development Academy, it left a void, and for a lot of the clubs who've been original members of the Development Academy and were kind of, let's say, the elite clubs in terms of soccer development in the States, they need to decide what to do. If we were all going to just disperse, it would be a real blow to development in the country. And so we kind of, the like 50 to 100 of the top clubs in the U.S. kind of wanted to stick together and either create or manage their own platform, or what happened before that was that MLS, came and said, okay, listen, this would be a great partnership opportunity. This would be a way to build a more distinct pathway, obviously tied to the top tier of soccer in the United States. So it moved very quickly. MLS and the folks there were able to really latch on and to build out something in a period from April to July. Basically built out a new platform within a 4 or 5 month period and launch it.
Nice. What are you bullish on right now in youth soccer? Anything that I mean, you're in it.
Yeah, we're in the thick of it. I think, I still think there's too much fragmentation. I think there's not enough focus on what does true development mean. Are we developing for the, for which sector of the populace? I think if you're talking about elite level soccer, I think it's probably common knowledge that we're doing better, but we're not there yet. We're not really competing in the way we should be with, international programs and countries and other youth setups. Again, I think we have great talent. The question is, how do we harness it? How do we develop more talent out of what we have? We talked a little bit about the U.S. pathway approach for U.S. soccer. I think that's something that just announced, maybe a little bit controversial in the sense that is U.S. soccer getting involved specifically with one operator in the U.S. It's also, as we know, just yesterday it was announced that Matt Crocker resigned from U.S. Soccer as the sporting director to take a similar role in the Saudi Arabian Federation. He was the architect of this U.S. pathway. He was the architect of bringing some of the elite coaching in terms of Pochettino and Emma Hayes into the fold. This close to the World Cup, does it have an effect? Is it going to affect? Probably not directly, but I think it's something to be mindful of about
It has some ripple effects down the
how
line.
and why this happened.
Yep.
And he expressed his in the recent months his surprise at how complicated an animal youth soccer is in the U.S. And so I hope that doesn't set us back. And I would I would encourage U.S. soccer and all the other governing bodies and operators to take a step back and say, what do we really want to do now at this juncture? How do we get involved more actively in the game? We are the only country where the federation doesn't control the youth competition.
Interesting.
So if you go to a European country, so the federation is governing and controlling the competition structure.
Yeah.
In this case, in the U.S., they're obviously they're sanctioning different structures and different operators, but they're not operating. They're only really at the kind of youth national team tier and obviously full national team tier. And so I think that's just something to look at. Is that the right approach? Do we need to go back to the types of situations where they're more involved in the governance and competition? Or is it for an operator like MLS to really run with the baton and build a true development environment, which they've been trying to do?
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. So I think there's a balance in there. We haven't hit it right, but we'll get there.
I think it kind of touches on Landon Donovan's comments from a couple of weeks ago too about the club scene, the fragmentation. So it sounds like there needs to be more consolidation, less fragmentation, and more of just a governing body, for lack of a better word. It kind of seems like it needs somebody to kind of be like, okay, this is what we're going to be. We're going to be under a centralized kind of hub. Am I kind of in there?
Absolutely centralized. What are the standards? What are the goals? What are the things that we want to achieve as a country? Are we trying to produce the best national team players? Is that our primary goal? We're trying to create a recreational scale so that we get more people involved in the game. Which operators do which? Is there certainly a tiering and should be? It should be a for-profit type led venture, which is what MLS and others are, and private equity coming to the space, which is fine, of course. But is that our goal, or do we want some kind of more governance siding inside, like what is technically a not-for-profit in the U.S. Soccer Foundation, U.S. Soccer Federation? So these are questions, and I think some of the leaders have to talk about this.
We talked a lot about during the Olympics, Norway, wins the most golds again. Everyone wants to talk about the Norway model. I push back a little bit on that because it's easy to get 5 million Norwegians to do something. It's kind of tough to get 300 million Americans to think another way.
Absolutely. The Iceland was an example, 8 years ago. So I think it is much different. It's a different animal here. It's a different setup, the distances, the amount of travel, the amount of competing competitions, the cost basis, a lot of these things. And we're in a country where there's no actual sports minister. We don't have this structure, whereas in all the European countries, they have sports ministers. They have people who are anointed and on a cabinet level positions to talk about how does sport help, and how sport helping the development of youth in their country, and the structures are additive to kind of the social fabrics that they create. So I think there's a couple of these fundamental differences that because of our size, we have difficulty coming to terms with. But I do think Landon touched on something that I think we should explore a little more. There's a lot of other pundits and former players and commentators who are out there who are talking about that same point. Like, we have to really address our level here and what we're trying to do in youth soccer, because we're improving, but I don't think we're at the level. I don't think anyone would agree at the level we should be at.
So this might be a loaded question. Feel free to abstain from it. What's like the last one for you? What's like the one barrier? Like, what's the one barrier that we have to kind of shed right now? Like, is there one? I know you mentioned a lot. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do this. Centralization, interoperability. We talk with tech. It seems like youth soccer needs a lot of interoperability too. talking to each other. Is there any one barrier, because you're in the thick of it and everything, is there anything you would shed first to say, like, okay, I can now kind of see, for lack of a better word, a pathway?
I mean, I think we talk a lot about cost, right? Like cost of participation. We're the club that I sit on the board of, Metropolitan Oval, is a nonprofit. We basically are not sustainable, even with charging our kids. We're an elite, one of the top elite academies in the country, but we still have to fill that gap ourselves, and the kids are still paying. So we can have a large scholarship base, but until you create like a structure, an economic structure that comes from the outside, sponsorship-driven structure, federation-driven revenue that is distributed, platform operators that are distributing revenue back to the participants. This is a critical lever that we need to find. We haven't found it yet, and I think that is an obstacle for participation for kids coming into the game, but it's also an obstacle for the operators like the clubs to provide better product and to develop the kids to a higher structure. So you've got governance, you have structuring, you have all these consolidation things we talked about, but I think cost is something, and we can't just say, why are kids paying? Kids shouldn't pay. We've had, and I think you guys have called this out too, like kids are paying because there wasn't a structure to support youth soccer from the 80s forward. There wasn't a league in the sense, there wasn't commercial sponsorship that was available. So the clubs had to build their own way, had to build a way to create the environment, which was a pay-for-play system. Until we solve that, or if we subsidize that to a certain extent on a national level, I think it's going to be tough to compete internationally.
This was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. I'll take that for you. All right, we're back. Name, company, what do you guys do?
Yeah, name is Matt Laporta. We have an investment firm called Wayfinder Capital Partners. Generally invest in lower middle market, youth sports opportunities. And we partnered up with Harris Roth. I'll let him introduce himself.
Sure. So Harris Roth, Optimal Investment Group. We invest in lower middle market companies, but we've done deals in logistics. We've done telecom, business services. We've done healthcare. We've done consumer products, but we've never done a youth sports company before. And so I'll just kind of tee up how this partnership came about. I have 3 kids. My middle son, I've been coaching him in baseball for 5-6 years now. I've seen the evolution in what these kids are wearing on the diamond. And I always liken it to, like, if we go to the gym, we're wearing Lululemon at the gym or Vori or whatever these stuff are. And then we're also wearing that out when we're on Saturdays and Sundays walking around. So kids now on the diamond are wearing these necklaces and these sunglasses and the sleeves. And they're all, as Matt says, they're dripped out. And so it's become a lifestyle wear for youth kids. And so I was presented with an opportunity to acquire a business, partner with the founders of a business, acquire a portion of it in the youth sports consumer space. Was somebody said, "Oh, you got to reach out to Matt Laporta. He's ex-baseball player. He's doing investments in this space." And I'm in California. I called Matt, who's in Tampa. I said the name of the company. He's like, "My kids wear that." And he was in overnight. And so Matt and I are in the process of making an acquisition of the company. And we think it has it's the space just has this unbelievable room to grow. And we think we're the perfect guys to take it to the next level.
Matt, I'll go to you first. Being in the big leagues, like, are the kids, like, I'm sure you saw some big league connections. Like, are the kids kind of showing the big leaguers like what kind of the drip is now, or is it still like the big leaguers are like, Bryce has awesome cleats or awesome gear, and they wanna do him? Because I know a lot of the apparel brands just cater to youth, and they don't really always scale to the pros, and they're okay doing that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think, when I played the game, it was always the big leaguers that were making, the new things that were coming out, and us as youth players wanted to wear it. I remember fighting necklaces were a huge thing, and it started in the big leagues, and then it just worked its way down. I think now you see a lot more youth working its way up to the major leagues. And I think a lot of that has to do just with social media now. You look at companies like Bruce Bolt, they started as youth baseball batting gloves, and now a lot of big leaguers are wearing them, right? Like, I know a friend of mine, Jack Caglione, who just signed and plays with the Royals. Like, he's sponsored by Bruce Bolt, right? And so,
we're going to start seeing those youth players become pro athletes, and they're going to.
That's right. I mean,
and then on the other end, like Victus started in the pros. Now they make the pencil bat. Now all the kids want to swing the pencil bat.
Dude, I know these kids, like, they froth at the mouth for this pencil bat. I'm like, guys, it's just an aluminum bat. Like, I've got a pencil in the car I can give you. You don't have to. You don't have to spend $400 on it if you don't want.
But when you got the Bat King there and he's making those designs, the kids are like, you know what? I want it. I say this thing. So, what I'm sure I know your answer to this, but what got you guys interested in youth sports and investing in youth sports and everything?
Yeah, I'll start, and then you can kind of finish off. I mean, for me, sports has always been the home of everything I try to do. I love sports. And I went back and got my MBA at Kellogg, and while I was there, I was actually trying to get away from sports, and I just realized that, again, that's home for me. And I need to leverage, again, my background in finance, playing, and use it not only for youth sports, but for, major league sports. We've worked on several Major League Baseball transactions. We just put an offer in on a major league team for a minority share. So sports is just, again, everything that I just live and breathe it.
Yeah.
So I've been doing deals for 8-9 years now. And I don't have a lot of passion about the companies that we bought. Like I said, a telecom services company. It's a great business, but it's not. And when I coach my kids and I'm out there with my kids and their friends, and I've become friends with all the other coaches, there's this community, and it's just awesome. And so to be able to mix that business with something you're super passionate about, Matt and I have calls with different companies and investors. I'm beaming ear to ear. I'm smiling. I'm like, this is awesome. I can talk about this all day because I'm so passionate about it.
And you understand it because your kids are living.
And I get it. It's right in front of me.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's big because my kid and his 10 friends are all dressed alike. They're all wearing these ice cream shorts. They're all wearing the drip. They're all, like Matt had alluded to earlier, about the pros coming down to the kids. But now it's the kids and the teens who are following people on Instagram, and they're not following, well, they might be following Shohei or whatever, but they see Shohei's highlights. But they're following the guys who are giving them baseball tips, like Coach Johnny, who's teaching them to field a ground ball today, and the next day he's teaching them to field it. And if Coach Johnny's wearing Bruce Bolt or Baseball 101 or the company that we're working on, they are, then that's what they want to wear, which the coach, this coach is cool. He's teaching me how to play, and he's wearing that stuff.
Savannah Banana's another one, like
exactly
kind of rec baseball-ish a little bit, but those guys are influencers with millions of followers, and what they're wearing,
selling out football stadiums.
TeamSnap is a good one because it's like now you're thinking about like I'm dropping a brand on my kids' highlights, so now I'm sending it over to grandma, grandpa, or I'm sending it across my Facebook group, my WhatsApp group, or my group chat and everything. So now they're getting into that on the sponsorship side. And these kids are like, oh my God, like if you played 2K or something like that, sometimes they'd have like a Sprite ad come across the screen before, you had a high flying dunk on the video game. Now this kid's looking at a State Farm ad, or he's looking at a Bruce Bolt ad, and he's like, I want to buy that, or maybe one day he's a State Farm customer, down the line. So just such an interesting space. With that apparel company that you guys are in talks with and stuff, do you guys ever think about like sponsorship opportunities, or kind of, what can you talk about from it?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about where can we take this. So they specialize in one part of the uniform, and then they've broadened it out. They've been around for 3 years, and their growth trajectory it's literally the hockey stick that you want to see in an investment opportunity. But when I talk to Matt, he's like, oh, we got to do this and this and that. He gets all excited because as someone who plays and knows that 15 different revenue opportunities, and the company right now is strictly in the U.S., but international opportunities. I mean, the World Baseball Classic was just one of the coolest events any of us have seen. I'm in LA, Dodgers, like the 3 best players are Japanese. So
super team over that.
So there's just so many other opportunities with products, with international distribution, with sponsorship opportunities, with these travel teams. Travel team baseball is such a big business. And so Matt's been, with his connections and Rolodex, he's really been already reaching out.
Well, you're a baseball guy. Is there anything else that you guys are like, maybe something here at the conference that piqued your guys' interest a little bit? Maybe expanding to other sports and stuff. Anything that, flag football's growing out of this world. Your son can play it. Your daughter can play it and stuff. Is there anything that you guys have seen outside of baseball?
Yeah, I think outside of baseball and what we're looking at now, post close would be something in softball. Cool. Would be like the next evolution of the business. That's taking off. I think further down the road, if you start thinking about it, my daughter plays flag football, so I'm like, okay, there's a lot of these academies that are popping up. My kids homeschool, so they can go to the baseball academy and train, and not because we believe that they're going to be some great athlete, but we just believe that we can cut school time down by several hours, and they can use that time to go and work on their craft, but also have time at the house. We eat dinner every night at home together. They're outside playing together in the lake or in their treehouse or on the trampoline. Where I was going was that I see like a flag football academy potentially opportunity in the future.
I do want to ask you, you being a pro athlete, you being a leader, what you did and everything. We talk a lot about specialization. Were you just strictly baseball growing up, or were you multiple sports?
No, I was multiple sports. I raced BMX. I played basketball. I was terrible at basketball. Played football. Played football in high school. I never played in youth because I was always like on the bigger side, and back then it was all weight class.
Yeah.
And so, like in 5th grade, I would have had to play with 8th graders. I'm like, I'm not gonna go play with these guys; they're gonna kill me.
Yeah.
And so I played baseball, right? So I did a lot of different sports, and I think you have to, as an athlete, do a lot of sports because it starts to. What happens is you start to realize, oh, I'm not fast enough for this. I'm not tall enough for that. I'm not quick enough. Whoa, but I throw hard. Oh, for me, baseball. Oh, I can hit the ball a little bit. All right, let's start focusing on a sport. But I didn't start focusing primarily on baseball until I was after my junior year in high school.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I didn't play football my senior year, and so that's when I started focusing primarily on baseball.
Yeah.
I think the specialization. I think kids get worn out. They get, they're done with the game at a younger age. Their body starts breaking down. Like my kids don't play baseball all year round. My kids play tackle football and they play baseball in the spring and football in the fall, right? I think it's important for kids to play other sports. And so when they go back and play, one thing I notice about my boys, when it's football season, they cannot wait for football season. They love it. When it's baseball season, they cannot wait for baseball season. They love it, right? So it's creating that excitement to play the sport. There's a lot of kids it's like, oh, I got baseball again.
Yeah, if you play 365 days, you wouldn't be.
It's a lot, man.
Yeah,
Doesn't
have
mean
meatloaf every day.
Yeah.
You don't want meatloaf for
No,
6 straight months.
That's right.
Love meatloaf, but you can't have 6 straight
You can't
months.
have it. I love pizza, but it'd be hard to eat it every day.
100%. 100%. Anything else you guys want to talk about? What you learned from here? Anything?
Unbelievable conference.
Okay.
You guys, you put on a wonderful conference. 1 year in, what you guys have done is incredible. So thank you for having us.
Yeah. Also, I gotta say, pickleball champ with an asterisk did have to leave before the
Asterisk,
game,
but
the team did win.
yeah,
And you were a vital part of the team.
yeah. You didn't ask me about my athlete specialization.
What's your pickleball specialization thoughts?
I'm focusing on pickleball these days. I'll leave it at this. Matt wanted to get a cheesesteak last night.
Nice.
And he was asking to go to Pat's or Gino's.
Okay.
And I said, no, you got to hold off today to go to Angelo's.
Okay. Good.
So
good idea.
did I do him right?
Yes, 100%. You'll enjoy it. You'll love it. Pat's and Gino's are good. We do appreciate every cheesesteak here in Philadelphia. I don't understand the cheesesteak discourse. It all goes the same place. But if there's a cheesesteak that you'll want to get, you'll have to wait a little bit for.
It's pretty special.
So he's leading you in the right direction. So thank you guys so much for coming on. We appreciate it. We look forward more to that news of when you guys close on that apparel company and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, fantastic. That's what I like to hear. Thanks, man. Appreciate you coming. All right, we're back. Name, company, what do you guys do?
So I'm Scott Birnbaum, and I'm the CEO of Booster. We are a fundraising platform. We are changing the way that fundraising works for high school athletics. Yeah. Well, right now, high school athletics is mostly raising money through either selling a product, think popcorn, candy, stuff like that, or doing email blasts, and there's not really a deliverable. There's no connectivity. Our platform is a platform for fundraising around content from the kids. So think subscription-based revenue, which is a game changer for a coach because he doesn't start at zero and he has a monthly repeatable recurring revenue stream. And then the grandma and grandpa or aunt and uncle or whatever who is contributing money, they get updates from their grandson or their nephew of how the season's going.
Gotcha. Give me some use cases. So, the subscription model, is this paid for by the school, by the team? Like, what do you guys kind of?
Well, the subscription is paid for by relatives, family, friends, the people that would normally contribute money through a fundraiser. Think like a bake sale or.
I used to go around the different schools, not different schools, different houses in my neighborhood and sell popcorn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think close family, friends, people who understand that the money that they're giving is going to impact the life of this loved one of theirs, and that the money, allows the program to operate, at the best that it can operate. Most of the money that is raised for these things actually ends up going to travel and food. That's where it makes the biggest difference. Most of the equipment and facilities is covered, but when you allow the programs to travel and do the extra games or the extra practices and have the food provided, it makes a big difference in these kids' development.
Now you talk more about grandma and grandpa subscribing and stuff. Can brands get into this on this platform?
We absolutely envision a world where that happens. I mean, that's actually an interesting point, is that most high schools, if they're going to do any sort of corporate sponsorship, each coach is on their own. So let's say there's a local pizza joint. The football coach will go to the pizza joint, then the basketball coach, then the volleyball coach, and they all have different levels of an offering. So depending on how big their audience is, meaning how many people attend their games or how many games they have, how much is at home, it's all different. We envision a world with Booster where a corporate entity could get involved for an athletic department in their local area and have access through the app to an audience that really cares about their community. So I do envision a world where we do that. That's not where we're starting, but I do think that's giving corporate something measurable, something that's an audience that's really in tune to their, like I said, their community, I think is really valuable, and I aspire to get to that point.
What were some of the gaps you saw? What was the story kind of behind?
Well, it started with my neighbor came to me and had just bought a bunch of popcorn from her nephew's football team.
I love it. They're still
and
doing
she's
that.
like, I bought all this popcorn. I can't eat it all. Please get it out of my house. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting. Why are they still doing it that way? I mean, and there's a place for it. I think that these programs should raise money in all the ways they can. But I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why do they still do that? They did that when I was a kid. And so I started looking into the margins. I was like, oh, well, you're spending a lot of money on cost of goods sold and delivery. And she doesn't even want the popcorn. She would rather more money go to the program. So then I started thinking about, well, what if there was a way to keep people to tell the story of the team so that people felt more involved? And I was like, oh, what if you got updates from the kids? What if you kept people, because it's very hard to follow a sport for someone you love. It's not something that you can read about in the paper. There's nobody there's not a newspaper.
You can only go so deep in the media.
Yeah, that's right.
You can hear about so-and-so team, guy had 17 points. You don't know the guy's story underneath that layer.
Yeah.
Typically in terms, unless he's like a high school superstar athlete.
And that actually hits to another point, is that a lot of the kids, parents are giving or grandparents are giving money, and their kids, a backup doesn't see the court that much.
Yeah.
So, but you still want to know about their development. You still want to know about their experience. I was like, how can I bring that to life? And once again, create the modern version of a booster club, where people feel connected to this thing that actually makes a difference in these kids' lives. And if they knew that the money was going to support something that really made a difference and they could see it, I think they'd feel good about it. And the fact remains, athletics is getting more expensive. and the funding isn't keeping up. So I think they're going to need more revenue streams. And I look at the coaches who, God, the coaches have so many jobs. I was like, if I can make their job a little bit easier by having predictable money, because most coaches in the off season have expenses and they have to go out of pocket. It's a big problem for them. I was like, if they knew when money was coming in, that could make a big difference in their year.
Yes.
Which allows them to spend more time coaching and less time worrying about this.
Yeah, that's a big thing. So is it an app?
Actually, we're a web-based platform, and we do that intentionally because if you participate in the App Store, a big chunk of money goes to Apple and Google, and we want more money going to the programs. So it's a web-based platform.
Nice. And then how do the kids kind of keep their grandparents updated? Are they writing a little message and it gets blasted out?
It gets blasted out only within the app. So the app is invite only. It's we have safety as our number one thing. So you have to be invited. There's a moderator. The communication's really only one way. Like you can't comment on somebody's post. Gotcha. It's all just like thumbs up or hearts. But the idea is that the kids, they will post stuff, maybe it's once a week. Maybe there's certain kids that post more than others. I don't really, I'm not prescriptive. Like every team's going to figure it out for themselves. But then an email or a notification will go out to the subscribers, and they'll get to log in and see some update. From maybe it's from the game, maybe it's from practice, maybe it's directly from their loved one.
Is it typically from the kid, or it might be from like, hey, Johnny's grandparents gave $5, $10. And this week, Sammy's going to write, what happened in practice. It could be anyone. They can all read them all.
I mean, I think from my perspective, I'm trying to do the lowest lift for the coaches. So one, I'm trying to do it starting with stuff they already have, meaning content's already been captured. Parents are in the stands. Kids have phones. They're shooting things. I'm like, there's already stuff that's happening that would be meaningful to a loved one. Okay, let's start there. But then you're going to have kids that gravitate more towards this than others. There are going to be kids that aspire to, doing stuff on social media or being more in front of a camera than others. Maybe they take more of a leadership role in it. Maybe you have somebody within the school that's, somebody that's the kind of person that would be on the yearbook staff that's into media. Maybe they take a role in it and it becomes this project.
Yeah.
I want to see what programs do with it. But I think some people, some programs are going to run with it and probably, pave the way for other people to show what's possible.
Is it all text based, or can you drop a video message?
Videos, you can do videos, still images. There's even a live stream capability. Oh, nice. Like we built all of those things in. Once again, not prescriptive. We don't know what people are going to use. We just built a platform that, I hope can make a big difference in these communities.
Nice. Where can people find it?
Booster.club.
Booster.club.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I'll take that mic for you.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're back. Name, company, what do you guys do?
Cool. I'm Greg Milnerick. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Kumba. We're a health and performance platform for youth sports organizations, connecting parents and families and athletes to vetted and certified sports psychologists, sport dietitians, and mental performance coaches, and collecting on the back end tons of data really around like the athlete experience, customer experience, to serve back to facilities and youth sports org to help with retention and the overall athlete experience.
If people watch our show, they'll know that now you were on it.
Two-time guest now.
Two-time guest now, and then we actually even had Dr. Brian. How's that all going with Dr. Hainline?
Yep.
You guys just announced that big news. Do you want to share with the
Yeah, totally. So Brian has been involved with our business really from the start. And for context, if anyone's watching, he's the former chief medical officer of the NCAA, wrote all of their health and mental health policies for over 15 years, now does the same for all international Olympic committees. And he started working with us a long time ago, really to help us build sort of like the supply side of what we do around all these vetted mental performance and sport nutrition coaches. And he's now stepping into a larger role with us, really to build out a lot of the like health, safety, and governance structure of how we plug into youth sports organizations, facilities, but also really think about like, how does this all zoom out into health as, or youth sports really as like a public good and public health imperative, and starting to build more into like the policy and potentially healthcare side of that as well.
How does bringing on Dr. Hayline, how does that expand more on your strategy of Kumba going forward? You know, what are you guys kind of looking more into?
Yeah, I think it's kind of what I alluded to at the end there. He is so well connected in the sports space, in the health world, right? He's so highly regarded that I think for us, we're starting to understand, or we believe rather, that for the organizations and even like counties, communities that put the health and well-being of the athlete first, right? Like what that stands to create from a retention point of view and registration point of view. But I think overall, like vitality of a community point of view can be hugely impactful, and he's really helping us shape a lot of that.
You did mention that last point on the episode you did with us, like the retention when you guys do, when clubs or organizations do offer kind of that mental health sports physio, or like it does provide a lot of attention that you've seen. Can you talk about more about that for people who might have missed that episode?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's helpful to look at like pro sports for this, honestly, too. And it's really interesting if you look at pro sports, like within a lot of the professional organizations, they have these forms of support: a sports psychologist, a dietitian, a nutritionist, but athletes don't really engage with them at all. The most sought after resource for support within a lot of pro sports organizations is the team chaplain, and is often sort of this like confidential third-party resource that exists outside the team environment. And so when you look at what we're doing with youth, right, not only are we bringing pro-level health resources to them, but we're also introducing this like confidential, trusted third party that exists outside of a coach, a parent dialogue. And I think that instills a lot of like belief into the athlete and the young person.
And where can people find Kumba? Where can they go on to be matched with a partner?
Yeah, Kumba.co for any athlete or club organization that's looking to learn more or sign up with our program. We have a lot of new exciting updates that hopefully we'll be chatting with you guys about.
Love to hear about all of them.
Regarding the like underlying technology that we're starting to build out in a much quicker way.
It's such an interesting space that you're in, because it's never really been unlocked. You know, I know you have some college customers currently and stuff, but you guys are, you know, I could be wrong on this, but the first ones that I can remember that are like starting to like dive into like more of the youth space, more of the high school space, because, you know, getting in front of it sooner is probably the key unlock, I would imagine.
For sure. I think like look at a lot of the other technology and like support companies here have been around for a really long time, right? Like they were the first movers into the industry, and I think we see a similar opportunity for health and performance. That said, this work isn't new, right? Like sports psychologists, dietitians have always been active in local markets, local regions. It just so happens that maybe we're the first to operationalize that, but then really bundle it at scale across the country.
And provide it for an affordable.
Make it accessible. 100%.
Because we talk about IMG, they got their mind, body, and stuff. You know, that's kind of a different thing than what Kumba is now. It's very exciting what you guys are doing. We appreciate you coming on again.
Thanks.
And we look forward to talking to you down the line.
Of course, we got plenty of updates coming.
I love it.
Thank you guys.
I
Appreciate
love
it, Kyle.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Cool. Good.
All right, we're back, and we're here with Name Company. What do you guys do?
All right, sure. Sam Nichols. I am from Michigan Sports Academies. We are out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. We have 6 facilities across West Michigan. And out of those facilities, we run a basketball, volleyball, and soccer clubs.
Cool. How big are we talking usually in the scale of those facilities, square footage wise?
Yeah, they're from 50,000 to 120,000 foot facilities. Yeah, big facilities. We run tournaments, of course, across all of those facilities. And again, our number one customers ourselves, with our own, travel clubs that operate out of those buildings.
We talk about the facilities arms race all the time in the newsletter. I don't know if you read the newsletter, but
certainly.
The facilities arms race, it is a interesting space right now. What are you kind of bullish on right now? I know some people are building mega complexes and they want to keep the parents, if you're playing at 8 a.m. and you don't have a game till 1 p.m.
Sure.
They want to be able to, maybe offer a restaurant or, a hotel option and stuff. What are you kind of seeing in the facility space as it kind of grows?
We're pivoting right now to try to really focus on the experience of the families. I know that was discussed in one of the last panels. The parents and families coming, we want to make them want to stay, not feel trapped, right? And I think that there is a distinction there, and that's super important, right? What can we provide to them that makes them feel good sticking around, as opposed to feeling like if they leave, they're going to lose their parking spot and they can't go. So we're really trying to focus on all of the changes we're making from the experience of the athlete and the ultimate customer, which is really the parent.
Sports, again, remind me what you guys...
Our largest is soccer, then volleyball, then basketball.
Are you thinking about expanding into anything else?
At this point, we feel pretty good with that mix. We do work with a lot of other sports and have them use our space in and around what we operate.
Soccer could be like football, could be
correct.
There's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. But we want to keep the core sports the way that they are, and we've really found that for a sport to work at the scale that we do it, because we're in the top couple percentile of the size of our clubs. To do it, you have to have the right director and leader who's fully bought in, and that can, and a base that can support, the operational costs for that. So we really need it to be the perfect fit. And baseball, softball is probably the other thing that really has, the market for it, but it doesn't necessarily mesh in the same spaces that we currently have.
Talking about the tournament economics as much as you want to go into it, because I think a lot of people who come to those tournaments are like, these guys are making hand over fist money. They're the richest guys in the world. They pay the registration, but they don't think about, the sponsorship that goes into it, the employing the refs, the employing the team to collect ticketing and stuff, the rent, talk about more about, how you guys maximize the facility and kind of the tournament economics of it all.
Yeah, I think, honestly, that's part of the reason why I'm here, right? Getting calls from private equity groups and having those conversations and quite frankly, trying to understand their angle, because I work with the actual dollars and cents every day. I know where it's profitable and where it's lacking. And so to understand why there's a lot of interest in this space is really part of the reason why I'm here. So, we use the tournaments to some extent to offset some of the places that we actually lose money in other parts of the business. Like, for instance, in the soccer space, there's 4v4 teams, but you have a paid coach. It's almost impossible to make those teams profitable, right? And the same at the high end of the soccer infrastructure. Those teams are really hard to make profitable. So you use the tournaments and those other things to kind of buoy some of the other parts of the business that aren't necessarily profitable, but are critical to the existence of the entire infrastructure.
Where can you guys have actually done it pretty well, because a lot of people have single, so you go to how many places in Grand Rapids?
We have 6 facilities, 3 in Grand Rapids, 2 in larger metropolitan areas outside of that area.
Trying to get out of Michigan, or
we've got a couple other places that we could build into, but I think we like kind of the hub and spoke model, right? Of trying to have the national teams in a hub and have a lot of younger and developmental spaces around, and it also allows us to get closer to the customers, offer more more reasonable, less travel type of options for the other families that, that's more affordable.
Any use cases or examples of how you guys maximize the space? Because like, when you talk about tournaments, usually it might be like a Friday to Sunday, maybe Thursday to Sunday. Sometimes you got to fill. Sometimes it's Monday through Wednesdays and stuff. What are some other examples of you guys?
The most interesting one that we've started doing is quinceañeras.
No
Right?
way.
Which is an interesting new space.
I love it.
But big groups of people with a liquor license, it can make sense.
We
right?
just had the networking event on the turf last night.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. It can make sense. So, that's maybe a different one that you haven't already heard
I like
of.
that though. I like that.
Right. Of course, there's pickleball and there's noon basketball and there's all kind of the standard things that everyone's using to try to fill those spaces. But we're just trying to be more creative, and really we want the ownership group that owns us. The goal is actually to be a community asset, right? If it's empty, it's not an asset, right? And not just from a financial perspective, but from an impact on the community perspective.
Yeah, 100%. You want these multi-purpose facilities that you grow to love. You want them to keep going.
Yes.
And then it'll create a very big gap in the market. And then, unfortunately, if like one goes out of business, then they got to drive maybe an hour or 2 hours down the road to go to use it
completely. And right now, building these facilities is cost prohibitive without major incentives from a municipality or from a state. And so, they're not popping up everywhere like they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when money was a little bit cheaper and the building was certainly cheaper, right? So, we want to make sure that we maintain those spaces to be community hubs for the long into the future.
Are there any technology plays that you guys have that people should know about?
I think that we're looking to make some changes in that space.
Build your own software or partner with somebody? Or
we'll partner with somebody.
Partner
Yeah, I think we're we know what we're good at, and that's probably not our core business, but that's also why this has been a great couple days for me, just to meet with a ton of our current partners and potential partners, and to also understand where AI is going to really impact this business. I feel like my job right now is to try to get us prepared for 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Right. And if any of us say we know where that's going to be in 5 years, we're lying. Right. So
I wanted to ask you, what do you think is going to happen in 5 years?
Yeah, I know, right.
You put your thumb on?
Well, I'll tell you what our focus is. Is right. Like we have 50 full-time people. Right. My goal is that as AI becomes more prevalent, that we're pivoting every one of those people to interfacing with the actual customer and away from the jobs that are more, let's say, non-human, right? Like things that can be automated are not things that we necessarily need those people for. So instead of maybe like looking to downsize, like that's not the way we look at it. We look at it as repurposing people into spaces where they can truly impact kids' lives. That's our goal, and so that's how we kind of look at AI. And so I think in 5 years, I think we will have done that, right? Like I think we will have repurposed all the people out of the things that can be replicated, and we will have them all being super impactful on a one-on-one basis with actual customers.
Do you guys do camps?
We do.
Camps are very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Camps are a good revenue driver.
They're a good revenue driver. There's something we need to do better. If I'm being honest, we do it okay, but it's something that we need to develop, moving forward. So looking to connect with other people here that are doing it well.
Yeah. Promote your website anywhere that people can find you.
MichiganSportsAcademies.com. This has been a great time, and really appreciate you guys putting this together and giving us a forum. It's such a unique group of people, right?
Yeah.
That I doubt is really gathered in this way before. So thanks for facilitating.
Really nice. No, thank you for coming. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Cool. I'll get you. All right, and we're back. And before we get into our next guest, I just want to thank TeamSnap ONE for powering the stream from registration to live streaming. TeamSnap ONE has every tool you need to run and grow your organization in one powerful platform. Visit teamsnap.com for more. Link in the description below this live stream. I know who you are. Ian Goldberg just sold a company. Congratulations.
That's true. Thank you very much.
You want to talk about it or
Great to
anything?
be
or-
here. Yeah, for sure. Well, it's interesting. I'm actually here today as a free agent.
You're a free agent today. I
You
like
noticed,
that. I like that.
Yeah. So I sold my company, iSport360, in 2025. It was a youth sports newsletter for sports parents. We grew it to about 3.5 million subscribers, and then sold it off in 2025. I worked with the acquiring company for the last year, and 4 weeks ago I left. I'm a free agent here at an outstanding event, meeting amazing people, and I hope to be working with some of these people soon.
Awesome. Do you miss the newsletter game?
I'm going to be back in it, and newsletters are everywhere. You can't avoid them.
I know.
I know. Thanks to the Morning Brew guys.
Yep.
Newsletters are everywhere.
Oh yeah, 100%. So why'd you start the newsletter? How long were you working on it?
Well, the funny thing is, I started iSport360 about 10 years ago as a software company.
Okay.
I went to Silicon Valley. I got Silicon Valley investors behind this software company, but it actually evolved into a newsletter company. So we didn't start it as a newsletter company. But the truth is, like so many people here have been talking about, sports parents need some support. They need resources. And being a sports parent and a coach, I just started writing articles for them that were helpful, fun, supportive, empathetic, and this newsletter started to take off.
Awesome.
It was a pleasant surprise, and we turned it into a business.
So you've been in it. What are you seeing from maybe this conference? What are you seeing from, that's something maybe that's stuck out to you, newsworthy wise, technology wise, anything?
Well, let's start with giving you some props here.
I wasn't looking for a testimonial.
For real, I mean, you have the right people in the room to get business done. And it's been a long time since this industry had something like this. I was just talking with someone maybe 10 years ago or 8 years ago, TeamSnap did an event like this. 300 people, intimate, people doing business, getting to know each other. So that's been the best thing that's going on here. So thanks to you and Buying Sandlot for sure. Other than that, I think 8 years ago, the youth sports industry was taking off. Then it started to take off more and then more. And now, there are investors dying to get in here. They're just trying to figure out how. And that's the trick.
Yeah. What are you bullish on the youth sports industry? Maybe from, we see a lot of people talking about it from a legislation perspective. We see a lot of people in the facility space. I just talked to a guy who's expanding and building and all this stuff. TeamSnap ONE, shout out to them. The management platforms, the live stream platforms, that's really interesting. The sponsorship dollars, anything that
they're all exciting.
I know.
Don't get me wrong. And I hope there's a lot of success in this room here with these companies. But I've always found parents to be the prime factor in whether youth sports organizations are successful and whether kids have a good time. And right now, one of the challenges we have that's not going to be helped by legislation or technology is that parents are just spending way too much money and time on their kids' sports when it's not necessary. Focus on the fun. You don't have to buy your 8-year-old the $500 bat. You don't have to get them pitching training 3 days a week until it's time. When they're 14, 15, 16, that's different. So I think I'm going to work to educate parents on tamping it down a little bit. Let's just focus on the fun. Let's focus on opportunities for your kids to play in a public environment where you don't have to spend $5,000 a year.
Yeah. So you're bullish on rec, I would say.
I'm bullish on rec. I'm bullish on free play.
Yep.
I'm bullish on. By the way, I'm also a little skeptical on the dropout numbers. I think a lot more kids are playing. They're just not showing up on the stats because they're playing, football with their friends in the backyard, or they're playing hoops with their friends on the driveway. I think, it's not quite as bad as some of the stats make youth sports out to be.
And anything else? I know you don't have much to promote, but I know you are a free agent. If anyone's out there, what are you looking to get into next? You looking to invest? Or are you looking to start another newsletter in some other capacity?
Thanks for asking. There's two things that I love doing.
Yeah.
One is starting companies and scaling them. And now that I had one exit, I will not make nearly as many mistakes when I'm helping other companies to do this.
I think a lot of second-time founders would say the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So getting companies from 0 to 1, and there's so many companies here that are either pre-revenue or early revenue. So I hope to help a bunch of them in a consulting role. But then just companies that are looking to learn the youth sports market.
Yeah.
There's some from overseas you have here that are trying to get into the U.S. I've built 10 years worth of a network in this youth sports market, and those relationships are really valuable.
Fantastic. Where can people find you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, Ian Goldberg.
Listen, you're public on LinkedIn. You're a nice follow.
Try to be active for sure. You know the power of LinkedIn.
Yeah,
I do. It's a great platform.
It is nice. It is good to connect people, especially in this industry and this B2B, and B2C.
So, for sure.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks
Really
for talking
appreciate
to me.
it. Get your
Yes, sir.
All right, we're back with our last interview of the day. Save the best for last, and a partnership announcement. We're here with Rob Ponder, CEO of Perfect Game USA, speaker, and now he's on the TeamSnap ONE live stream. Talk about it. Partnership media day. You guys just.
Yeah, no. First of all, thanks for having us this week. This was fantastic, and I love the best for last, so appreciate that. So the deal that we did was with Youth Prospects, which is a production company, content provider, youth social media following on YouTube, Instagram, everywhere else. What we've done with them is we've given them our broadcast rights to basically to produce exclusive content, exclusive footage. It's almost like we're going to let them inside, take them off the foul territory, put them in fair territory, promote the kids. It's a shared content, so what they do will air on PG.TV and on our social media platforms as well. And it's a unique deal, and it's just like an inside look at everything that's PG. And our teams, our players will continue to be promoted. And it's very similar to what the leagues do with their broadcast rights. And for us, we with 1.1 billion social media impressions last year and 90 million people on PG.TV, we are a media network. So these rights are valuable. And we also want to be very protective of the rights going forward, because there are people that show up at our events and try to take advantage of our content without paying us.
Yeah.
And there's brands that do that, and realistically, it's no different than a Yankee game, a Philly game, or NCAA. They don't have the right to do that. We'll never stop parents from doing things, of course, but we have to start putting limits on certain.
Got to protect the IP.
Yes.
So expanding a little bit on the partnership, Will they be broadcasting at every single PG event, or are there some select ones to start?
Yeah, I think it'll be select. It'll be some of the elite events at first. They'll have unique access that others don't have. So they'll be filming things, producing their own content, sharing with us. And again, they'll be promoting the players. They'll be promoting the teams. It should be really cool.
Yeah.
And they're a cool group.
And this will be sitting on the Perfect Game and Youth Prospects YouTube, their Instagrams, or is it going to be exclusively on Perfect?
All of the above.
Cool.
So it'll be both. It'll be shared for both of us. And ultimately, it'll be the best product that we can put out there. And both sides will put it on all their social media channels.
You said it was a unique partnership for maybe people who are sitting outside the space that might be in like the soccer or baseball or basketball, space. Why do you believe it is a unique partnership, maybe one of one for?
Well, I think for us now, we're taking these games, and which we do over 200,000 games a year, and it won't obviously be every one of those games, but it's just an inside look into amateur baseball. And there'll be some elite tournaments, elite kids, and nobody else has that access but us. So the future stars of tomorrow are playing at Perfect Game events. I like to say it's like with America's being 250th anniversary, right? It's like Americana and prospects. It's a land of opportunity. We're hosting our All-American game in Philly this year too.
Yes, you are.
And we're excited, and Youth Prospects will be there. And again, it's just a great way to connect with the kids and parents.
Where were some of these guys that you guys kind of saw, or maybe challenges that you're experiencing? Why do you think that Youth Prospects was like the perfect partner?
Well, I think Youth Prospects has a great following on social media right now. I think kids, if they're not going to PG, we're going to Youth Prospects to check out amateur baseball content. We've kind of tested the waters with them a little bit. We like them. I think culturally it's a great fit of what we're doing. And they're all about promoting the kids and putting them in the spotlight just like us.
So I know there's PG, you guys have great promotion. The brands love to promote with you guys. Will these brands be integrated in both the YouTube and the channels, social media channels for both PG and Youth Prospects?
We're hoping to get as brands, as many as we could possibly get, but what a great outlet to connect with the youth audience. So bring, whether it's a bank, an insurance company, whatever, they should be coming over to PG and Youth Prospects, and what a great branded content opportunity.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate it. Like I said, anything else you want to expand on the partnership or talk about, or what's coming down the line for PG and Youth Prospects?
Again, we just, being Buying Sandlot conventions in Philly, we're just really excited to host our All-American game in Philadelphia this year. And it's just, like I said, with the 250th anniversary of America, I'm giving my little promo on that one. So we're excited to be here.
No, it's awesome. You guys are adding to a long list of very prominent sports events that are happening for the 250th anniversary. And I know we've talked to you guys, and I hope we'll be there, and so we can highlight it as well.
I hope so too. Thank you
so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. I'll take this for you.
Oh, sure.
All right, so that is the end of the live stream for today. Thank you to everybody who came on. Thank you to TeamSnap ONE, who, well, without them, this doesn't happen. And one last ad read for the Buying Sandlot Summit of 2026. Thank you to them for powering the stream. From registration to live streaming, TeamSnap ONE has every tool you need to run and grow your organization in one powerful platform. Visit teamsnap.com/one for more, and we will talk to you next year at Buying Sandlot Summit 2027.